And then we have part 3 of the plot. Prosecutors are now in possession of text messages and emails directly connecting members of Trump's legal team to the early January 2021 voting system breach in heavily Republican Coffee County, a county Trump won by nearly 70% of the vote. Those players include attorney Sidney Powell, Misty Hampton, a former Coffee County election supervisor, Kathy Latham, a fake elector, and bail bondsman Hal Scott.
If I had 100 sheep and one of them got away, I would leave the 99 and go find that one. That's right. Look from the locks and jaws of Satan I come creating, penetrating with force from the land of the lost and coming. Like Muhammad got the devil on the run, rising like the sun. Keep your eyes on the one on the base. Bring forth the reborn nation.
Tonight on the readout.
At the end of the day, at the core of this thing, he engaged in the case of the documents, in outrageous behavior where anyone would be prosecuted. I don't know of any attorney general who could walk away from it.
But we begin the readout tonight with the clearest picture yet of the expansive plot Trump and his allies unleashed after he lost the 2020 election. The January 6th committee and special counsel Jack Smith exposed the what as well as the who in the plot. But it was the Georgia case led by Fulton County DA Fonnie Willis that really shows us the full scope of characters in the Trump gang. The indictment is full of bizarre cameos like Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton, who's referenced on page 30, when prosecutors note how Donald Trump attempted to get the Georgia Attorney General on board with Paxton's doomed lawsuit on behalf of Texas to contest the election results in 4 other key states. Paxton is facing a lot of issues right now, namely impeachment. And he is only just one sliver of Trump's latest ensemble cast. At the center, of course, is Donald Trump himself and the officials tied to his efforts to subvert the 2020 election in Georgia. Household names and some of his staunchest supporters, Mark Meadows, the former White House chief of staff, along with Trump attorneys John Eastman and RICO pioneer Rudy Giuliani. Sorry, that jab will just never get old. But as we walk you through this plot, we meet and re-meet other characters, all of whom are facing damning charges and who reflect the true scope of this alleged criminal enterprise. The first part of the scheme was the maneuvering to get dozens of fake electors on board across multiple states. Big names in Trump world, Giuliani and Eastman, supported the fake elector scam. But there's a lesser-known cast that pretty much invented the entire scheme. Kenneth G.B.R, the architect of the scheme, who allegedly devised the plan to submit fake slates of electors for Trump to obstruct Congress's certification of the election results. The pro-Trump attorney and co-defendant was also recently caught on camera multiple times among the crowd at the Capitol on January 6th, following around Big Live frontman Alex Jones. At no point does it appear that he attempted to enter the Capitol. Election worker intimidation is a key element of the conspiracy alleged in the Georgia case, which is where part 2 of the scheme comes in. Following the November 2020 vote, Ruby Freeman and her daughter Shay Moss were falsely accused of rigging Georgia's election in favor of Joe Biden. The mother and daughter duo, both Fulton County election workers, were targeted because Trump's fraudsters needed a patsy for their fake elector plot. Now just remember, these were not victimless crimes. Freeman and Moss were viciously harassed, their lives upended, as Trump's cronies tried to harass them into admitting to something that was not true. Which brings us back to Trump's ensemble cast, and the characters you may be less familiar with. Harrison Floyd, the Maryland-based executive director of a group called Black Voices for Trump. Trevion Cutty, a former publicist for now scandalized music stars R. Kelly and Kanye West, as if this case wasn't weird enough. And we have Stephen Lee, a Lutheran pastor, I did say pastor, whose allegedly creepy guy history includes knocking on Freeman's door to, quote, get some truth on what's going on. All 3, according to the charging document, pressured, threatened, and intimidated Ms. Freeman, citing baseless claims that she was involved in voter fraud. And then we have part 3 of the plot. Prosecutors are now in possession of text messages and emails directly connecting members of Trump's legal team to the early January 2021 voting system breach in heavily Republican Coffee County, a county Trump won by nearly 70% of the vote. Those players include attorney Sidney Powell, Misty Hampton, a former Coffee County election supervisor, Kathy Latham, a fake elector, and bail bondsman Hal Scott. And last but not least, we have the fake Republican electors themselves, who claimed illegitimately that Trump had carried the state. Not all of them are facing charges, but 2 of the 3 charged are David Schaefer and Sean Still, who know a thing or two about politics. Schaefer is the former chairman of the Georgia Republican Party and is still, to this day, a Georgia state senator.
How you doing, folks? Andy Prady here with the 11 Alive Investigators. Let me tell you about a story that is starting to develop that we are working on right now. You may have heard about claims of voter suppression in Georgia and the Secretary of State's office getting sued for putting voter registrations on hold. Well, let me tell you about details about voter intimidation you may not have heard yet. I bet you haven't heard yet. It involves a grandmother in Georgia who almost went to prison for assisting a voter.
I know you before you started.
We go back a long way. We were next door neighbors.
She's not on this year's ballot, but it's easy to see why Olivia Coley-Pearson has served 19 years on Douglas City Council, unopposed.
So we all go way back.
She knows her constituents.
Thank you, sweetie.
While popular in her district, Coley-Pearson's toughest political battle happened last year. Not on city council.
You committed false swearing, did you?
No, sir.
But in a Coffee County courtroom facing felony charges.
I will not agree.
It started with a complaint filed with the Georgia Secretary of State's office. The claim, illegally assisting voters in 2012. Listen to an audio recording between a state investigator and a voter Coley-Pearson helped.
Do you know why Miss Pearson signed the back of the vote certificate that she was assisting you?
Because I didn't know what to do, what I ought to do.
Was that the first time using the machine?
Yeah, that was my first time.
At the end there where you have to push the button to cast your ballot, who pushed that?
Me.
And that's what happened. That's what I was criminally charged for in terms of assisting a voter.
Were you on the ballot?
No.
Here we go again.
Reverend Rudolph Porter is a local pastor.
If she could have gone to prison for that, I guarantee you could serve all the hot dogs, the hamburgers, the Coca-Colas in the world. People wouldn't have gone to the polls ever again in this county.
Yo, if I had 100 sheep and one of them got away, I would leave the 99 and go find that one. That's right. Look from the locks and jaws.
Years or more.
Absolutely. They want to put us under the jail. It stinks. of desperation, and it seeps through everything that they do, and it often comes along with the threat of violence. We are talking about a Secretary of State that went after college students. They raided a voter registration office and tried to send all of these college kids to jail and came against them with criminal actions, right? And the penalty for what they call voter registration fraud in Georgia, it carries with it a penalty of up to $10,000 in fines and 10 years in prison per form.
I again was doing what I do, talking to people everywhere I see them at. Hey, have you voted?
Ms. Pearson?
Yeah. Not everybody likes that I'm doing it.
Olivia Pearson's mother led the county's NAACP.
My mother sued the city of Douglas to get more representation on the city council.
After years of registration drives, Olivia became the first Black woman to win election to the council.
When I received the letter in 2016 from the Secretary of State signed by Brian Kemp.
Kemp used his power as head of the state election board to have Olivia charged with the felony crime of interfering with voters.
I could have served up to 5 years in prison. So it was very, very, very frightening. It was very depressing. I had to go and receive counseling to help me to cope with it. It was horrendous.
A jury quickly found her not guilty because, as it turned out, disabled voters had filled out the official forms requesting her help.
They had the handcuffs around my back, my hands to the back. I couldn't get into the car with them like that. I was in excruciating pain.
The New York Times wrote that Olivia's case made Brian Kemp a pioneer of present-day voter suppression.
The young lady that I was with at the time, she told me, she said, "Miss Olivia, I don't even want to vote. After all of this, I don't want to vote anymore. I don't want to do it." And I had to beg her and explain to her that that's what they're doing it for, is to cause people to be afraid to exercise the right to vote.
From his very first year as Georgia's voting chief, Brian Kemp literally ordered armed seizures. He sent the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, Georgia's own version of the FBI, to Quitman, Georgia, to arrest 10 newly elected members of the school board. The first Black members on the board, arresting teachers, including 2 PhDs. Kemp accused them of stuffing tampered ballots into mailboxes. That same old accusation as in 2000 Mules. Kemp had them paraded in handcuffs and orange suits like they were terrorists at Guantanamo. Local journalist George Boston Rhines has closely tracked the case.
I'm George Boston Rhines, and I'm in Quitman, Georgia. And I am immediately, just got down here. These are the Quitman 10. This is what I do.
After 4 years of prison over their heads, the Quitman 10 were acquitted of every charge.
So much stress was on those people. Lula Smart even considered taking her own life.
With all the indictment that I had, in my mind, I thought, well, if I just commit suicide, this will be over.
Another suffered from lupus.
Latasha Head, she died, and I interviewed her father, and he said that he believed that his daughter's death was a result of the stress and pressure brought about by Secretary of State Brian P. Kemp.
Rhines explained that the persecution of the Quitman 10 brought up traumatic memories of the lynching of 12 Black men in 1918, what is called the Week of Terror. When Mary Turner raised her voice about the execution of her husband by vigilantes, they came after her.
wow.
Where are we? Can you tell me what we're about to do?
This is the old Brooks County Jail. This is where all of the equipment, and this is where all of the men that were arrested during that week of terror in May of 18 would have been housed in this jail before they was lynched. This is my first time ever coming into this place. I've heard some horror stories about this place. In May of 1918, Mary Turner was lynched. They took her, she was 9 months pregnant, turned her upside down, riddled her body with bullets. A white mob member took a hog knife, ripped over her abdomen, and out fell an 8-month-old fetus. And when that fetus fell to the ground, the white mob member took the heel of his boot and crushed that baby's head.
Even today, the memory of Mary Turner is a political battlefield. The plaque commemorating her was shot up so often, it had to be removed.
Water used to come through here high, real high. They would throw blacks over here. I do believe that the spirits is crying out for justice from the grave. I said, when I grow up, I would like to come here and try to dig up those bones of those black folk and give them a proper burial.
But spirits drowned will rise. Georgia is a haunted house, and Governor Kemp has gone to war with its ghosts. The ghosts of Georgia's history, the ghosts of his own family's history. Until Georgia, until America hears these spirits, neither they nor we will be set free.
If I can and they let me, I will vote.
Wait till the next generation. Wait till the next generation. Wait till the next generation.
That's what they've been saying, you see.
Wait till the next generation.
There you'll find your identity.
Wait till the next generation.
We're gonna be ready to take a stand.
Wait till the next generation.
And take control of the life that's in your hands. All along the road, freedom and democracy, gaining moral strength, wisdom and stability. There's gonna be a victory for the common man, a vast awakening all across the land, all across the land.
The next generation.
Apathy's gonna be hard to find.
Next generation.
We're gonna select the things that go into our mind.
Next generation.
We're gonna shape our own destiny.
The next generation.
And alter the face of history. democracy, gaining moral strength, wisdom, and stability. It's gonna be a victory for the common man, a vast awakening all across the land, all across the land.
The next generation.
This I want you to understand.
The next generation.
I don't wanna,
Wait till the next generation.
cause
This is the next generation, man.
George Boston Ryan has closely tracked the case.
Water used to come through here high, real high. They would throw blacks over here. I do believe that the spirits is crying out for justice from the grave. I said, when I grow up, I would like to come here and try to dig up those bones of those black folk and give them a proper burial.
But spirits drowned will rise. Georgia is a haunted house, and Governor Kemp has gone to war with its ghosts. The ghosts of Georgia's history, the ghosts of his own family's history. Until Georgia, until America hears these spirits, neither they nor we will be set free.
If I can and they let me, I will vote.
part 3 of the plot. Prosecutors are now in possession of text messages and emails directly connecting members of Trump's legal team to the early January 2021 voting system breach in heavily Republican Coffee County, a county Trump won by nearly 70% of the vote. Those players include attorney Sidney Powell, Misty Hampton, a former Coffee County election supervisor, Kathy Latham, a fake elector, and bail bondsman Hal Scott.